Hello everyone. In today's class, we will be discussing about CR lab program 11. It's on RSA algorithm. Okay. So the program goes like this. Write a program of simple RSA algorithm to encrypt and then decrypt the data. Okay. First we will see what is this RSA algorithm is. So outcome of this program is you have to generate the encryption key, decryption key as well as the encrypted data and then the decrypted data. Okay, so let's see what is this RSA algorithm. RSA is actually a widely used public key crypto system. So what is public key crypto system? And it's also called as asymmetric key encryption. Asymmetric key encryption. So it means we are using two different keys for encryption as well as decryption. We are not using the same key. So encryption will be done by using one key and it will be sent across the network and the receiver will receive it and he will decrypt it using some different key. It is not same as the key used for encryption. So that's why it is called as asymmetric key. So we use two different keys, that is known as public key and then private key. Okay, always encryption will be done using the public key, which actually everyone will know. So in a network everyone will know the public key, that's why the name tells it is public. Whereas decryption is actually private key, only that person who is decoding it should know the private key. So that is decryption will be done using private key. Now let us see the RSA algorithm for generation of the key. Okay, that is we need to generate two keys now, public key as well as private key, and then how to encrypt any given message and then how to decrypt it. So here is the RSA algorithm to generate the public as well as private key. So let us see step by step. We have 6 steps here. First step, generate two large random primes, that's P and Q of approximate equal size. So what does it mean? We are actually generating two large prime numbers, random prime numbers we have to choose. Okay, we are naming them as P and Q. So two prime numbers. Then compute N. Second step we are computing N. N is nothing but product of P and Q, which are two prime numbers. Next, compute phi of N. Phi, we call it as function phi. Okay, phi. So what is this actually? It is called as Euler's totient function. Euler's totient function. What does it identify? Actually this function phi will count all the positive integers up to n, whatever number we are giving, up to n, which are relatively prime to n. I am not getting into the details of relatively prime and all because you have already studied that in your maths. If the concept is not clear, just refer back to your math subject. Okay, so which are relatively prime to n, so it will count that number. Okay, for example, phi of 10, how do we calculate? First write the factors. Okay, this is just for your reference. 2 and 5 are the factors of n, right? And then write the numbers up to 10. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Clear? Then what we are supposed to do? Scratch out all the products of these. 2, 4, 2 2s are 4, 2 3s are 6, 2 4s are 8, 2 5s are 10. And for 5, multiples of 5, only 5 I have. So how many factors are left? 1, 3, 7, 9. That means phi of 10 is 4. Okay, that's what this Euler's totient function will do. So how are we calculating it here? P minus 1 into Q minus 1. P and Q are our prime numbers. So I am just doing P minus 1, multiply it with Q minus 1. Then I get this phi product, phi. Okay, the component phi. Next, so the 3 steps over. 4th steps, choose an integer E. That is my encryption. That is public key, right? For my encryption, that's why the name E. E means a key for encrypting the data. That's nothing but public key, right? So E, such that E should be to observe this. Greater than 1 and less than 5 of n. Less than 5. Where is 5? 5 you have calculated it here. So it should be greater than 1 and less than 5. So you should choose actually an integer e such that it should be greater than 1 and less than 5, and also it should be the GCD of e and phi of n. Okay, GCD of e and phi of n. Whatever phi of n you have calculated and whatever e you have chosen should be equal to 1. Okay. What does it mean? Again, they are relative to prime, right? Only, for example, 3 and 7. If both are relatively prime, only then you will get the GCD of 1. Okay. So then you have computed your E, right? You have chosen your E such that which should satisfy these two conditions, and then you will go and compute D. That means key for your decryption. Which key is that? Key for decryption, you will be using the private key. So this is your private key. You should use D such that it should be greater than D and less than phi of n. Okay. So D should be greater than 1 and less than phi of n. So such, and also it should be such that your product of E and D. E is your encryption key and decryption key. The product should be congruent modulo to 1. See, this is not equals, this is triple lines. Okay, 3 lines are there. So that is called as congruence modulo. So its congruence modulo to 1. So it means like congruence modulo is like this. Okay, if A is congruence modulo with B of mod n, what does it mean? So whatever remainder you get by dividing A divided by n should be equal to B divided by n. Remainder of A n should be equal to remainder of B comma n. So only then we call it as A congruence modulo B mod of n. Okay. So that is actually congruence function. So we have to choose we have to select our D such that E cross D is congruence modulo with 1 mod phi of n. Actually this equation we have to convert it into equals, right? So then only equation will be easier to solve. So we have actually solved this and we have come up with D into E mod phi of n is equal to 1. So now you should choose your D such that it should be greater than 1, less than phi of n, and D into E mod phi of n should be equal to 1. Okay. And then the public key, so till now what and all we have computed? We have computed the encryption and decryption keys, right? So we have computed E and then the D. Okay. So the components of encryption key and then decryption key. Now the public key, what do we consider it as? Is n comma E. Okay. This n is this, and then E. So this is the encryption key component. This is what we have chosen here, right? And private key is n comma D. That is that number, and then the decryption component, whatever D you have calculated. So clear? Now we will take an example and see how do we come up with the numbers. So now let me take numbers and then execute all the steps. First one, prime numbers P and Q. I have chosen P is equal to 11 and Q is equal to 3. Okay. So next, step 2. What am I supposed to do in step 2? Compute N, that is P into Q. What is my N? N is equal to P into Q, that is nothing but 11 into 3. Okay. And that's nothing but 33. Okay, step 2 done. See, actually we are supposed to choose the bigger numbers of P and Q, only then your algorithm will be secured. Otherwise, anyone can find out with permutation and combination. So you have to choose bigger values of P and Q for you, so that your RSA algorithm will be secured. But now actually for demonstration purpose, just to make the calculations easier, I am choosing smaller values of 2 prime numbers, that is 11 and 3. Both are prime, right? So yeah, step 2 done. Step 3, compute phi. Phi actually, phi of n is nothing but, so the phi of n right? Phi of n is equal to p minus 1 into q minus 1. What does it mean? So phi of 33, right? N is nothing but 33 is equal to p minus 1 means how much? 11 minus 1, right? 11 minus 1 into q minus 1, that is 3 minus 1. That means 10 into 2, that's nothing but 20. Okay? So this is 20 and this is 33. So I am done with my step 3 now. Okay? So step 3 done. I know my phi of n, I know my n, I know my p and q. Now I have to choose E such that E should be from 1 to, let me choose 4th point. Okay, it should be less, E should be greater than 1 and then it should be less than phi of n. What is phi of n? 20. From 1 to 20 I should choose a number, right, such that my GCD of E and phi of n should be 1. So what is GCD? Greatest common divisor, right? So a divisor that can divide both of these. So when can GCD of two numbers be 1? When both of them are relatively prime. That means they are relatively prime and there is no other common factor apart from 1, right? So GCD of E and phi of n should be 1. That means it should be relatively prime. Let me choose from 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me take some numbers up to 20 and try which one suits the criteria. 1 I can't take, right? 1 I can't take because my E should be greater than 1 and it should be less than 20. 20 also I can't take. Sorry, it should be less than 20. Yeah, it should be greater than 1. 1 and 20 I can't take. 2, can I take 2? But here the condition satisfies. Yes, 2 is greater than 1 and then less than 20. But here GCD of E 2 and then 20, right? Phi of n is 20. Let me put 20 here. So GCD of 2 and 20 will become 2, right? I can divide both by 2. So it should be 1. So what else? Let me choose 3. Will it satisfy the condition? So 3 is actually, yes, it is greater than 1, less than 20. It satisfies this condition. And GCD of 3 and 20. Yes, there is no common divisor. So it will be 1. That means to satisfy this condition, I will choose E is equal to 3. Okay. So 1 is less than 3, correct. 1 is, E 3 is greater than 1, less than 20, correct. GCD of 3 and 20 is 1. So I am satisfying these two conditions and I have chosen E as 3. Clear? Let's move on to step number 5. I know one thing, I just summarize all these values in the top. So I need some space to write up the 5 and then 6 conditions. Now let me compute D, okay, in step 5. So how I should compute my D? It should be, D should be greater than 1 and it should be less than phi of n. What is my phi of n? 20. So my D should be greater than 1 and then less than 20, right? And then it should also satisfy D into E. What is my E? My E is 3. I have already chosen it. D into E mod phi of n, right? Mod phi of n, that is 20. D into E mod 20 should be equal to 1. Clear? D into, so I should satisfy these two conditions. Now let me assume D is equal to, let me keep on testing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 up to 20, right? Of course I cannot have 1, so that is cancelled out, it should be greater than 1, and I cannot have 20, that is also cancelled out because it should be less than 20. Now let me keep on testing it. Okay, if I substitute 2 here, 3 2s are 6, 6 mod 20 is 6 only. So that is wrong, I cannot actually have 2, 3, 3 3s are 9, 9 mod 20 is 9 only. So that is also wrong. Next let me choose 4, 4 3s are 12, 12 mod 20 is a 12 only, so I cannot. Next 5. 5 3s are 15. 15 more 20 is 15. I cannot take that. Next 6. 6 3s are 18. 18 more 20 is 18 only. So I cannot. It is not equal to 1. So 6 also cancelled out. Next 7. 7 3s are 21. Okay. 21 more 120 is, sorry, 7 3s are 21. 21 more 20 is 1 only, right? 21 more 20. You know how to calculate modulus, right? So 21 more 20. That means whenever you divide it with 20, 1 is the remainder. So cool then. I can choose 7 as D. Clear? So D is equal to 7. So from step 5, I got the value of D, which is nothing but 7 now. So how did I get? I kept on testing for each and every values from in this range. So here I have written all the values from 1 to 5, what and all I have computed. P11 to 11 and Q3, N is equal to 33, 5 is 20, is 3 and then D 7. Now what is my public key? That is N comma E, that is nothing but 33 comma 3. Okay. And what is my private key? That is N and D, that is 33 comma 7. Okay. So now I have come up with public key and then the private key. Now let us see what is the algorithm to find out the encryption as well as the decryption. Like the encryption, once I get the message, how to find out the encryption and then how to come up with the decryption. So here is the algorithm for or the steps for encryption. Let's consider M as the plain text, the text to be encrypted. Okay. And this M should be less than N. What is my N? I have it here, right? So it should be less than N. And then C is the cipher text. Cipher text means the encrypted text, right? So the cipher text is C is equal to M to the power of E mod N. Okay, M to the power of E mod N. Here is the example. So till now, this is my encryption algorithm, right? So now let me consider M as 7. Okay, I want to encrypt the message 7. Let me substitute it. So ciphertext, what is the formula now? M to the power E. Okay, M is 7. 7 to the power of E. That means my E is 3. Okay, 7 to the power 3 mod 33. That means, see here is the N, right? Mod N, mod 33. So I have substituted all the values. So just compute it. 7 to the power of 3 is nothing but 343 mod 33. It is nothing but 13. Okay. So my C will be, my cipher text is 13 now. Let me just add it here. Okay. Cipher text C is my encryption, right? This is encryption. So my cipher text is 13. So how does my decryption would look like? My decryption should be, I should get back the original message, that is 7, right, from this. So what is the algorithm for that? So this is the decryption algorithm. That is, to get my original message back, it is like C to the power D mod N. What is my C? Here I have the value, right? C is equal to 13. Right, let me substitute all the values here. M is equal to 13 to the power of D. What is my D? D is equal to 7, right? D. So are you observing it? For encryption I used value E, right? And then for my decryption I am using value D. Okay. So C to the power D mod 33. That's why I am using N as well as D here. That's why I have given private key as N as well as D. Okay. Why did I give my public key? Because I used, in the formula I used E as well as N. That's why my public key is 33 and 3 while encryption. While decryption I'm using my private key, that is 33 and then N along with the 33 and sorry N and then D, right? N and then D along with the ciphertext. I have the ciphertext, I have my key, I am decrypting it now. So when you calculate it, you will get the value 7. So that is M is equal to 7. So clear? Now we know all the values. We also got encryption as well as decryption values. So whatever value I had chosen, my message, I got it back after the decryption. What did I send over the network? I sent only the ciphertext, that is nothing but 13, right? So no one can decrypt it without having the private key. So I hope the algorithm explanation is clear. Now let us see how to write the code for the same.
Now let us see how to write the code for the same in Java. Okay, first we are actually importing few packages. What are they? Let's see. The first one is data input stream. So what are we using this for? Yeah, do you observe it in the first line, right? Import Java IO data input stream. So what are we doing with this? It is actually super class. Okay, super class of all classes representing an input stream of bytes. Okay, so to get the input stream of bytes, we actually need this one. It is an IO. And next one is import Java IO exception. What is this for? This one we are using actually. This class is the general class of exception procedure by failed or interrupted IO operation. So whenever we get some exception by failed input output or interrupted IO, then we need this package to handle them. So next one is Java math big integer, the point line number 3. Right? What are we doing here? Actually, like see, normal integers and all, they have their own space, right? Like beyond that you cannot actually create a bigger number than that. So memory allocation, right? Here actually it is unlimited. If you are defining it as a big integer, that means it is unlimited. It is like used for mathematical operation which involve very big integer calculation that are outside the limits of all available primitive data types. Okay, so it's like theoretically it tells there is no limit of memory for these integers. Okay, next one is Java util dot random. So we this is actually a random class and it is used to generate the pseudo random numbers. Okay, so this is actually for pseudo random numbers in Java. Okay, so this math is actually to do math for big integers. Yeah, and here I am starting with the public class RSA. So what am I doing? First, I am declaring all my big integers. Big integers, as I already told, you can actually store really big numbers in this because, as I've already mentioned, we need big numbers as prime numbers P and Q to be chosen so that your encryption and decryption will be have a higher standard. They are less vulnerable to attacks. That's why we are using big integers here. So all these are big integers only, P, Q, N, phi, right? I have defined this one, right? Phi of N in the algorithm. The same I am actually using phi here. Okay, E and then D. E and D we know, right? Encryption, decryption. Next, what am I doing? I'm just bit length. I just want P and Q of size. This one, 1024 1K. Okay, so I'm actually initializing bit length as 1024. Okay, and then there are two private variables, random, and then okay, here is the RSA class. I'll do one thing. I'll just start with RSA function. So I'll just go through this one first, and then I'll go to the main function because I'll get the flow if I start from here. Okay, so now um, see here, R is equal to new random. What am I doing? I'm actually generating a random number here. Okay, R is equal to new random. I'm initializing it. And then what am I doing? See here, P is equal to big integer dot probable prime of bit length and then a random variable. So randomly I am selecting one big integer, that is p, right? That's how we do, right? Even while explaining, some random prime number it should be, that's why probable prime. So this is the function for that. Same way I'm selecting for q also, big integer dot probable prime bit length, and then r of this much length I'm selecting a one more prime number, that is q, and after that I am just printing both of them, system.out.println. So I'm printing the prime number p is whatever I have chosen. This is like I'm not choosing it, my algorithm is choosing it. And then print the prime number q. Okay, so that has been printed here. And next, what am I doing? I need to, what is the next step? Compute n, right? These two things are done. Generate two large random prime numbers p and q approximately equal size. These two I have done. So compute n, right? P into q I need to compute. See here, n is equal to p multiply q. So this is the function. So I'm calculating n, which is nothing but p into q. Okay. Next, what is my third step? I need to compute phi, right? Phi, what is the formula for that? P minus 1, q minus 1. Okay. So let us see. Phi is equal to p subtract big integer 1. That means p minus 1. Okay. Multiply q subtract big integer. This is how the big integer math look like. Okay. It looks like this only. So you have to remember the syntax for this. So to subtract 1 means that's what I'm doing here. Pi minus 1. Okay. Subtract big integer by 1 and then subtract big integer by 1 and then I'm multiplying both of them. So I have calculated pi here. Next, what am I doing? E is equal to big integer. Again, it's a big integer. Probable prime of big length by r. So see, bit length I have, right? So I'm choosing half of that length. So it's like half k size, right? So half of that length, and then again it is a random prime number I need to select. Okay. So again, see, that's what we are doing, right? What am I doing in 4 steps? So choose an integer e such that it has to be greater than 1 and less than 5 often. See, I'm choosing in such a way that it is greater than 1 and less than 5. That's why I have taken bit length less than 2. I mean bit length by 2. That means it will be of course less than 5 often, right? 5 often is product of those two, but I am taking half of that length. So that means of course it is greater than 1 and less than e. Okay, this condition is satisfied. And one more condition is there. What is that? Such that GCD of whatever number I have selected and phi should be 1. Okay, that condition I need to check now. So here I have selected one number, and again I'll get into a while loop. And what am I doing? I'm just checking phi and then e GCD. See, this is how the syntax is: phi dot GCD of e. That means GCD of phi and e compared to big integer 1. That means it should be, the GCD should be like compared with 1. Okay, that means it should be equal to 1. That's what I'm calculating here. The same this one, fourth step in my algorithm. Did you observe? GCD of e comma phi of n is equal to 1, right? The same thing I'm calculating inside the while. If at all phi of GCD, I mean, this means like GCD of phi and e. Okay, it is compared to 1, big integer dot 1. So if it should be, and again it should be greater than 0. It should be 1, of course, right? And what are we doing? It should be e dot compared to phi. I'm comparing it with phi. Should be less than 0. Clear? So I'm checking that condition and I'm if at all it is not matching, what am I doing? I'm just increasing it one by one. The same way as I chose, right? I just kept on checking for all the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's how I'm just increasing it one by one. Okay, increasing it to one by one, and then what am I doing? I'm just checking for the next number until and unless this condition is satisfied. Okay, until and unless this once it is satisfied, that means I got my e, right? That's how I did it in step 4 also. I kept on testing for each and every number till the condition is satisfied. Next, what am I doing? Okay, e add okay, this is done. I exit out of this, and then system out dot println. That means public key is e. So I have chosen my public key, right? I can just print that directly. So So how am I calculating my D here? D is actually D into E mod phi of n is equal to 1, right? That's how I calculate it. Let's see what are we doing here. So D dot D is equal to, see, I'm just moving this one the other side. Clear? So how, what will happen? D is equal to, I want to calculate D, right? You just move this one to the other side of the equation. What do you get? D is nothing but E into mod inverse of phi, because you are moving that side, right? So it becomes mod inverse. So you are calculating D with the same formula with that is mentioned in fifth. The only thing is I'm just moving the other side of the moving it to the other side of the equals. So D is equal to E dot mod inverse of phi. So what am I printing next? My private key is D. I'm just printing whatever value I calculated. Clear? So this I'm done till now. And then next one is public RSA. There is one more small function called RSA. Okay, and what are we doing? It's again you were using this operator here. This dot E is equal to E, this dot D is equal to D, and this dot N is equal to N. And why do we need this one? So this keyword actually, this keyword, whatever we have mentioned here, it is used to actually refer to the current object in a method or constructor. Okay, current object or constructor. Why do I need this one? See, whenever you are accessing the member variable, okay, which has the same name as that of the local variable. A member variable and then local variable, if they are of same name, then we need this operator. Otherwise, you will get wrong input. Clear? So that is the function it is doing. So that's all about the RSA function, RSA class. Now let us come to the main. Okay, this is the main function here. Public. Okay, public static void main throws IO exception. What is this throws IO exception? It is not some comment or something. Okay, it is actually it is also a keyword. It means that the main method is not catching any exception. Instead, it handles the IO exception. How it is handling? It is by throwing it to the source which invoked the main method. Whatever the source which invoked the main method, it will just throw that exception, but it is not handling any exception. Okay, you throw exception if you want it to be handled by higher function or the calling function. That is what it is. Next line, what is it? Okay, we are creating one instance of RSA class, right? And then what next? So data input stream dot in is equal to new data input stream system dot in. What is this? The standard line that we include every time. It is actually constructor to create an input stream. Okay. Once I have this in hand, then we can have a list of helper methods. Okay, which can be used to read the inputs, whatever we are asking from the user. It's basically for reading the input. I need this one. Okay, it's a standard line. And then yeah, I'm defining one test string. That is nothing but my message that I'm going to get. And then okay, I'm printing on the screen. Enter the plain text. Okay, I'm reading that string into test string is equal to in dot read line. I'm just reading that line, whatever the text it is being entered. Okay, so encrypting string. So I'll just type as encrypting string. Okay, this is what I need to encrypt. I'll just print the same test string that I have taken, and then okay, string in byte. Okay, I'm just converting it. Whatever string, it could be some text, right? It could be okay. Whatever message I'm sending is some text. Okay, my bank password is dash dash dash. So I'm just converting that into bytes for encryption purpose. Okay, so encrypted is equal to RSA dot encrypt test string dot get bytes. So what am I doing? I'm just calling RSA dot encrypt. What is my function here? Where is my encrypt function here? Let me just put. See here. I have an encrypt function here. Okay. What am I doing with encrypt function here? See, I'm just using the same formula. So what is my ciphertext formula that we have discussed? C is equal to C is equal to m to the power of e mod. This is actually power, okay? Mod n, right? So the same thing we are actually using here. So we mention this. That means m into mod e into mod n. Okay, m to the power e. That's what is power is. Okay, m to the power e mod n. That's how we mention this. And I am also converting it to byte array. Okay, so I'm just using this formula here to encrypt the message. So where was I? Okay, yeah. If I here I was right. Encrypting string, test string, yeah, done. So string in bytes, I've converted that, and then what did I do? I called encrypt message. Yes, I've encrypted it, right? So it is there in the encrypted string. Encrypted. This is the variable where I'm encrypted. This is the variable where I'm storing the whole message that I have encrypted. So decrypted is equal to, again I'm calling the decrypt algorithm, decrypt function here. Okay, so here is the decrypt function. What am I doing again here? Again, it is a big integer function. So here, what is the function that we saw? M is equal to 2. So here, this one was to calculate the cipher text. So now M is equal to C to the power D mod n, right? Mod n. Now just see the formula here. The same thing, right? Whatever message that we got, m mod m power d comma n and then to bit array. I'm just again converting it to bit array. Okay. So that means I got the C here. Out.println, yeah, I've printed it, and then here where was I? Yeah. So testing string byte done, decrypted RSA, decrypt encrypted. What also here we got the decrypted message as well, and here what are we doing? Byte to string decrypted, right? And then whatever decrypted message is there, I am just converting it to string. So because it is there in bits, right? I want the exact message here, so I'm just converting it here. And then okay, this by now I have printed both my keys and then encrypted and then decrypted message. So this was the function I called to convert from byte to string. Okay, it is a small function here. So I'm just taking all the message and then I'm just converting it to byte to string. Okay, and then I'm just returning that test message which I have converted from byte to string. So these two were the encrypt and decrypt text that we saw. Clear? This is all about. I hope you notice here. This is actually D, right? This is actually the D. Here I'm using encryption key, and here I'm using decryption key, right? So yeah, and this big messenger is nothing but M, and this is nothing but my C. I hope the code is pretty simple if you understand the logic. Okay. Now let us see the execution part of it.
Now let us see the execution part of it. So I have logged into Ubuntu. Let me open the terminal. So now I'll open gedit. I have given my class name as RSA. So you have to save your file with class name only in Java. Okay, so I'm opening gedit with the RSA name. I have typed the program here. So I have typed the program here. I'll save and then close this. I'll save and then close the gedit. Okay. So now gedit rsa.java. Now let me compile this one. Okay. Java C rsa dot java. So my compilation done. Just ignore these two notes, okay? Anyway, they're not error messages. It has been compiled successfully. We are just using one override, okay? So that's why we are getting this. You can ignore these two notes. They are just notes if you see, okay? It is not actually error message or warning. Now let us actually run this one. How do we run? Java and then the Java program name, that is RSA. See, now what am I supposed to get? According to the description that we saw and then according to the code, so it should generate the, it should choose to P and Q, right? See here, my prime number P is such a huge number, right? That's why even in code, we have actually given big integer as the integer type. Clear? Just for the example or purpose only, I have taken P and Q as 11 and 3. But whereas in real, in your algorithm, you should be using a large number like this so that you, to assure that your RSA algorithm is secured. Can you imagine the size of it? See, such a huge number. That's why the data type we used for P and Q is big integer. Okay. So prime number Q is such a big number it has generated. Okay, so these two are prime numbers and randomly it has chosen. And then public key is, see, it has generated the public key of this. Okay, and what is my private key? So my private key is this one. You can see that, right? This is my private key and this was my public key. Public key is my prime number Q. Here you can see that, right? Prime number Q, right? Prime number Q and then prime number P. So it has calculated all these things. Now what is it asking? So we have calculated all these things and it is giving me in output also. Now I need to see whether encryption and decryption it's doing. So I enter the plain text. So I want to send some important information. My bank password is okay, secret 123. Okay, my bank password is secret 123. So this is some very important information, right? I don't want anyone in network to access this information. So I'm encrypting it and let me see my ciphertext. This is my message, right? Enter the plain text. So encrypting string, my bank password is this one. Okay, so string in bytes. So this is my ciphertext. Okay, so this is my ciphertext. So encrypting a string, this string they have encrypted in the program and we are actually giving this string as the output. This is my ciphertext. See, anyone who sees this, will anyone can able to understand this? No. And even to guess P and Q, see, we have used such a huge number and it's really difficult to guess this number, or even with trial and error, they can never go to this number, right? So this is my string. And then decrypting bytes. So this is again, they are taking this ciphertext. So we are taking the ciphertext for decrypting, and my, what is my decrypted string? User will, whoever the receiver, he has decrypted this ciphertext and decrypted string. Again, they'll get my bank password is secret 123. Clear? So this one I have sent it. Okay, I have entered this message, and my algorithm, what it did, it actually encrypted the string, and this is my ciphertext. And what does the, this is the what the will be sent over network, and the receiver will receive this string. Okay, these bytes and decrypt byte, he will take this one, and then what he will do, he will actually use the private key, whatever we have the algorithm has been generated here. This private key is used to get back to decrypted string. So you'll get, is getting the whatever password I have sent. Clear? So this is the execution part of it.